Thanks, Nikita. So we had a very insightful and heartwarming and passionate speech from Dr. Verma, and I welcome all the members of the audience and my fellow panelists. Today we are going to discuss transformation into a digital-first organization. Right? The last 2 years has really accelerated transformation within the organization, and especially in the area of digital transformation, where there are a lot of initiatives and opportunities that have been taken head-on by our fellow panelists, who are all battle-hardened veterans in this particular area. Right? With that, I open the panel asking the first question to Sanjay. Yeah? Hi, Sanjay. So how should organizations increase business agility with multi-cloud flexibility, right? And what are the pros and cons of the same? Over to you.
Hi, good morning everyone. Great to be here. Multi-cloud as it goes, right? You can imagine is of course much more complex, is probably harder to manage, harder to orchestrate, much simpler just to go to one cloud environment and move on. But I think what multi-cloud offers us is of course a lot more flexibility, agility, a lot more resilience, and probably even a better cost structure in the longer term. And I can give a couple of examples of how we are orchestrating, multi-cloud environment and really using it to our advantage in our organization. I mean, I work for Mondelez, right? And we have brands like Cadbury's, and of course are very connected to our consumers and customers out there. And we collect a lot of data around our consumers and our customers, right? So we get a lot of data from Google, so we decided that all our consumer data we would want to host in the Google environment. It makes sense, right? Versus getting it from Google, transporting it to other cloud environments. That just wasn't making any sense. So we keep it there. It also allows us to then leverage a lot of the tools and capabilities that Google offers on their platform. If I move to China, we use the Ali cloud, right? And it's much faster, it's much more flexible, at least the way we've set it up. And it allows us to then use the tools that the China consumer, that our China organization demands of us, right? So, of course, orchestrating this landscape with multiple clouds, having Azure, having Google, having Ali is much more challenging. But I think we definitely, if orchestrated well, gives us a lot of flexibility and capability that we can then leverage and deploy solutions much faster.
Thanks, Sanjay. So we move from the FMCG industry over to you, Prasanna, right? From a banking perspective, how do you think organizations should increase their business agility leveraging multi-cloud flexibility? And of course, the pros and cons.
Yeah, I think, thank you so much for this question. And thank you, Trescon, for this big CIO show, 11th edition. Looking forward for your question, I think every organization has its own environment, right? Within a banking ecosystem also, we have PSU banks who has a legacy of architecture, legacy of processes or culture out there. We have tech-heavy banks, SDFCs, ICICI has an edge on to build on cloud, or this is what we have seen. There are some challenger banks, right? DCB, IndusInd, and so on, or cooperative banks. So every bank has its own edge, and there are some newer banks are coming in, although they are not licensed in within India. So looking forward, every bank will always look at how is their infrastructure journey. Say example, during pandemic, what we have seen, a lot of a huge adoption has happened on cloud. Video KYC or a lot of learning platforms, a lot of collaboration platforms, information sharing, communication among employees. So I think the cloud has really helped. Coming on to the multi-cloud, multi-cloud helps because every cloud service provider has their own abilities, inabilities on certain areas. So having multi-cloud, so you may have a better speech analytics on one cloud, or you may have some other OCR or some other feature on another clouds. That's how a use case can happen with the help of multi-cloud. It gives a lot of a business agility. You can do away with all that lock-in kind of a features. Usually, if you go only with the one player, so you will have that kind of a risk, right? So it gives a lot of flexibility as far as your journey is concerned. Now, another side pitfalls of a multi-cloud could be like as I said, every cloud service provider has its own architecture, complexities. So how do you maintain that security or scalability around one application? So that could be the one area. Then moreover, cost aspect, right? Every cloud service provider has its own cost. Although it could be an advantage to choose one of them, but if some service is very good with another cloud service provider, but it's costly, then it becomes a challenging situation. So there are pros and cons. I think multi-cloud will remain forever. There is another perspective, look at multi-cloud. I think we heard many projects, our honorable keynote speaker has spoken about many projects, Atmanirbhar and whatnot, right? So I think one of those concept or ecosystem which is coming in India way is NOD, right? National Open Digital Ecosystem, wherein it's for agriculture, bank, SMEs, health. Moreover, it's gonna be combination of many ecosystems, and it will be certainly on a cloud rather multi-cloud. And here onwards, while we are working silosly within a bank on our cloud own journey or our managed data center journey, tomorrow's use case is gonna be on marketplaces. Eventually, ultimately, today we are collaborating with the fintechs and they have their own cloud first journey. So at the end, we are inherently adopting some kind of a cloud. Few of those use cases are around many service providers, right? Say example, account opening. It could be wherein I am utilizing Aadhaar API or some API from some fintech partner, another API from another fintech partner, and as a use case, it becomes a multi-cloud. So while I have my own journey today in 2022, if you look at it down the line 3 years, it's gonna be multi-cloud. So use cases will be consolidated. We already have a UPI or BPPS and so many use cases. That's another angle to look at. Instead of looking at whether multi-cloud or non-multi-cloud, it's gonna be a multi or hybrid cloud forever. Understood. So we need to really adopt what is there for your pocket size, what is there for current orbit aspiration for that particular bank. Accordingly, we can choose. But certainly, we are entering into new era, 5G, Metaverse. So I think cloud is the only option remains after 2-3 years. Yeah.
Sure. So, Nish, you all are industry agnostic.
True.
Right, as an organization, right? And so from the whole technology provider point of view, right? What are your views on the same question with respect to multi-cloud, the flexibility and pros and cons of the same?
Yeah, so Raj, I'll start off putting it very simply, meaning if you have a well-defined multi-cloud deployment with the keyword being interoperability, it definitely gives you the flexibility, number one, and it also gives businesses the choice in terms of pricing, like even Prasanna talked about, services, and of course, geographic locations also. So these are the benefits businesses get. But having said that, there's not one size which fits all. Meaning organizations have varying needs. You could have demands where you need to quickly scale up, let's say your compute and your storage needs. So you look at public clouds there. The other typical scenarios we've seen wherein data regulations might warrant you to kind of within a geographic location. And at times it's user demands, right? Let's say all of us are on these OTT platforms, so the CDN networks, etc. So to avoid latencies, probably organizations would have to look at deployments very close to the users, practically where all of us kind of. Finally, for us, multi-cloud, of course, it's a combination of looking at multiple cloud service providers and also looking at your on-prem cloud. So you could have legacy applications, mission-critical workloads, typically banks where we engage. Those are all going to be on-prem. So depending on your use cases, you'll have multi-cloud strategies. So from an Intel technology standpoint, since we provide that technology foundation, I'll say this. We've been working associated with data center providers for quite some time. Nowadays, we collaborate with the cloud service providers, all of them, meaning engineering work with them, deep dive collaboration, etc. And even if you look at the wider software ecosystem, our whole objective is you get optimized deployments, whether you're going to be on the cloud or you're going to be data center. And we also play a role to ensure this is seamless. Now, this is mainly from a collaboration. So let me kind of take it a step further, what we have done within our own setup. We have 24 data centers globally. Probably we have around 300,000 servers to run our core business. And of course, 400 plus petabytes of storage. We started our on-prem cloud journey around in 2010, meaning in terms, if you ask me, we would have saved from a cost perspective a couple of billions of dollars while automating, making this on-prem cloud a lot more efficient. But with this public cloud advent, right, it does bring in a lot of flexibility. You could look at services very quickly. So we look at multiple vectors within our organization. The first is, meaning, you know, the amount of data that's being generated. We right from designing our chips, the conceptual stage, all the way to manufacturing. There's a huge amount of data that's being generated. That is typically on-prem. We've actually gone and looked back and said, okay, certain services, or let's say applications, these could be hosted on cloud. They need not be within the prem. That would kind of take the workload from the core setup. The other thing we've looked at is cost efficiencies, meaning if you could look at service offerings as is on the public cloud, it could probably save you rather than you doing it all on-prem. Our setup, we have 120,000 employees. I mentioned the number of servers we have, and nowadays the buildings that we make are smart. These have various smart sensors, right? They are generating a huge amount of data. Of course, we try to get insights from this data that's generated. But do we want to actually, for all these smart buildings, do we want that data to come into the setup? Probably we'll depend on the service providers to host it on a cloud and give us insights. So these are the various ways we've looked at multiple cloud deployments, and to our advantage. And of course, we've been very selective about it.
Well, can I just add 20 seconds? So in my view, what's going to happen while we are facing, it's a need of a time, right? GDPR, data protection, in interest of a customer. So today, maybe the data is in control of bank or some of those government agencies, wherever the customer is getting onboarded. Tomorrow, it will be in control of a customer, right? That's what every regulation says. So there could be some entities will arise in future who are the neutral entities, who will take care of the data, right? As a form of a agreement, but the data or data generation or data
escrow custodian.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how that could be the one angle we need to see here onwards. It was not there, but I think that will come up.
That is very interesting. And Manish, as a provider of chipsets, you know, so you also and adopter of public cloud, so effectively you eat your own dog food.
Absolutely.
So with that, I'll shift to the next area, right? Being a digital-first organization requires reskilling of the whole team in order to adopt the advantages of digital transformation, especially on the cloud. So my question over here is to Kirti, yeah, in the area of, you know, how should an organization go about building multidisciplinary teams, right, to support what is now commonly known as composable business architecture?
Thank you, Raj, for the wonderful question. I think it ties with the multi-cloud question. So let us take a step back and try and understand what is composable architecture. Composable architecture is really a modular architecture, right? We build modules, and those modules could be built in isolation, and they could be stitched together or consumed together to give a journey. It is just like the Lego building blocks, right? Using the same blocks, you can create a building, you can create a dinosaur, and you can create a ship. So that is what composable architecture is. And why is it required today, right? We are living in a world where we need to transform. As ma'am said, we need to innovate. I said challenge the status quo, but all this has to happen at the speed of light. So that is why we need this composable architecture. Now, if we have to deliver quickly, then what we do really needs to happen at the place where it is going to be consumed, right? It could be business at the customer end, not can't be built by technology and then given to business. So therefore, it is very, very important for us to have the right structure in place, right? Monolithic architecture is gone. We talk of composable architecture. So monolithic team or organization structure is also can't deliver a composable architecture. So what are some of the things that we are doing and organizations are doing? Creating cross-functional teams, right? It's easier said than done. There are turfs, right? So these decisions really will have to be taken from the top. Now, how does one create a cross-functional team? If the need is a permanent need or a medium-term need, then you could just create one cross-functional team and let it be housed in a business function. And that is what we did for our digital business. Digital business will work on technology. So without technology, they just can't do anything, which is the direct-to-customer business. So we have created a cross-functional team where the business, the designers, right? The UI UX designers, the full stack developers, the quality folks, the project managers, all are sitting in one team, which is reporting to the business. They have common goals. So if the business succeeds, then all of them have succeeded. If a project succeeds, all of them have succeeded. No more, if a delivery has not happened, the business will say, IT, you messed up, okay? So one team, common goals, housed under one leader. That is easier said than done. I spoke about modules, right? And some of the examples of modules could be a KYC module, right? We build a KYC module or we take a KYC module from one of the multi-cloud service providers that we have. And the current need would be to use it in the customer onboarding journey. But if I have such a module or if we have such a module, the same module can also be used in our case for an agent onboarding journey. So then we need to create these modules which could be consumed by multiple people. So there you can't really have a cross-functional team which is only going to build a KYC module, because today they build a module, tomorrow that module is not required and something else they have to build. So cross-functional teams who will build such modules are required. Their reporting lines may not be, because there is going to be no leader for KYC module, right? How does that structure then work? So what we are doing and what we see organizations do is define very, very clear common goals for the team, right? Build this KYC module, it has to be built in this time, with this technology, with this kind of a throughput. Goal is common. Two is define the accountability very, very clearly, right? Otherwise, if the module leads and the module participants are not accountable for what they build, then it will lead to chaos. So define these short, focus teams, as Gartner calls it, to solve a particular problem. The team also needs to be given a free hand to experiment, right? Because why do we need modules, right? So today I build a module, I may not be happy with the module, tomorrow I throw it, use something else. Or maybe what I built was good on-prem. Then there comes somebody on the marketplace who has a better KYC solution. Why do I continue with what I have? So the accountability, the responsibility, the freedom to fail and fail fast should also be given to the team. Otherwise, this is not going to work. Again, very easy said, very difficult to implement. The third thing that I want to talk about here, Raj, is that, yeah, this is very nice, right? You build modules, but finally they have to work together. And all of us are here. I mean, we don't want businesses to create things which are a nightmare for us to stitch. So to be able to do this, we need to have, in my mind, a very, very strong enterprise architecture team that defines the architecture, right? That defines the guardrails or the boundaries within which there is freedom to have the composable architecture. It's not ad hoc, it has to be fit within, so that we are able to deliver what we need to deliver to the business. And I think that is from my side, Raj. And I'm happy that you asked me this question, because while I had technology for the last 4 or 5 months, I'm doing talent acquisition, talent retention, skilling, creation of structures, and implementing the structures. I think without this, we will not be able to deliver what we are promising to our business.
So Kirti, the key takeaway for me is that you're heading a startup within your organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the challenge is different, right? Two differences. One is that we don't get money like a startup gets, right? And two, we still are working in the boundaries of not a startup organization.
Which means passion keeps you going. Thank you for that. Right? So the FMCG industry has been one of the industries that has really accelerated and shifted gear over the last 2 years. Be it in the adoption of cloud-based distributor management systems, or for that matter, the whole D2C as a channel, right? Along with all the channel conflicts that come in, right? So that has meant a lot of reskilling, reorganization of structures, right? Maybe to things like purpose circles, etc., within the organization. So Sanjay, I wanted your view with respect to going about building multidisciplinary teams for a composable business architecture.
Yeah, no, first, Kirti, very well articulated. I mean, I really agree with what you said. And just to add, I think composable business architecture absolutely brings a lot of speed and agility, right? And what in areas where we were heading that way, of course, the last couple of years have accelerated that journey. It's really allowed us to not only leverage the digital investments we were already making, but also fast track further investments in this space. I think one, Kirti talked about multidisciplinary teams. Of course, these are made up of your hardcore technologists, your business SMEs. But another area where we are investing a lot in is, we call them citizen developers, who we see are really growing within the organization, and we are making a lot of effort, right? As IT professionals, the demands that exist today of us, I don't think we can service all the demands that are coming our way. So we have to bring in these composable applications, technologies, as IT professionals, set them up within an organization. Yes, put a framework around them. Yes, govern them. But then we want to really train business users who are very technology savvy, train them to then go and build their own applications, reuse, repurpose, whatever on those platforms, and then deploy them. And we're seeing this really grow, right, in a very organized way. So I'm not saying there's a shadow IT organization, but absolutely, by purpose, we are building these citizen developers and letting them, use these architectures, these platforms, to really then build what they need and get value out of these capabilities that we are fast deploying we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months.
That's very interesting. Citizen developers also with the low code, no code kind of concepts that are coming in, and also the great resignation that is, waves and waves of it are there today. The concept of citizen developer, I believe, is the right call that organizations are taking. Of course, easier said than done. There's a lot of homework that has to be done around that. With that, I move to my next question, and this question will be for the entire panel, right? Very quickly, for a digital first organization, what approach should be taken, in enabling teams to work and learn from anywhere, okay, from a point of view of a digital workspace? I'll start with Kirti.
So I think 2 years ago this question would not have been asked, but today we are here with this question. So I think first thing that we need to change is the mindset, okay? Because when we were working from home, all of us were comfortable. Now that offices have opened up, some people want everybody to come to office. But I think hybrid way of working is here to stay, and we all need to change and accept that. That I think is the first thing that we need to do. Now, once we have changed our mindset and we believe this is the way to go, then we need to also change the methods in which an organization works or runs, right? For example, it could be as simple as how do you say whether a person was present? There is no office coming, no swiping of the card, right? So, and how do you then measure the performance of an employee, right? Not in office for 8 hours, but working, right? So the measures have to be different, completely different. Collaboration, right? I mean, maybe people my generation would think that collaboration can happen only when you come to office. And I'll just share something with you. I've been mentoring 2 girls, and they are doing a course in a college, right? And one is based in Delhi, one in Mumbai. And I was having these individual mentorship sessions with them, and one of the girls said, why don't we collaborate, 3 of us together? I said, wow, wonderful, when are you coming to Mumbai? She said, I'm not coming to Mumbai. I said, then how do we collaborate? She says, we can watch a movie together. I mean, I didn't know. You could, I mean, I'm sitting at my home, one girl is sitting in her home in Mumbai and another one in Delhi, and we watch a movie together, but that's what they expect. So I think the rules have to change. Collaboration could mean sometimes virtual, sometimes in person. So the rules have to change. Third thing is that if the rules have changed, then we need to have the necessary tools to be able to manage this. For example, I mean, all of us use Zoom, Microsoft Teams, so the virtual meetings are done. But my teams have come back and said, innovation-driven projects, whiteboarding is a challenge. Then we may need to invest in tools like Mural, where virtually you could do innovative work. Measures need to change. Virtual training should be organized, which could be a combination of online learning, self-paced learning, or it could be a virtual classroom training. I think we have to change. We need to change our mindset, the methods, and we need to invest in the right tools to be able to work in this changed world.
Nice. My next, the same question to you, Manoj.
Manish.
Manish, sorry.
Yeah, meaning, you know, while we've been engaged with leading enterprises, this digital transformation journey, the pace post-pandemic, meaning it's just accelerated. And the big shift we have seen is, you know, organizations are seeing the way they, way they went around building the foundations for this digital first strategy is very different now. And Raj, like you pointed out, right, one area which has got impacted from a technology perspective is the remote workforce. In fact, organizations are looking at now, how do we foster this remote workforce, and what do we have to do different from a technology standpoint to kind of enable and keep this workforce going. 3 areas typically. One is, of course, now that you have a remote workforce, within your organization, how do you kind of ensure the security? That's the first vector people are looking at. And it's a vast canvas. The other piece is, of course, you always got to keep the lights on always. Your workforce could be operating 24/7, unlike earlier when they were fixed working hours. So how do you kind of address that piece? Agile, always on infrastructure. And the third piece is scalable. The demands from a remote workforce on the backend infra are very different from what you had earlier within office. And I'll give you a classic example from our own setup. You know, when the pandemic hit, when we went to a lockdown, everyone was working from home. Everyone, meaning people were trying to collaborate through standard, like Kirti mentioned, right, Zoom, audio. So bandwidth intensive applications, collaboration is pretty bandwidth intensive. I'm sure the experts here would agree. And that hit our network as such. First thing we did is, how do you get this off? VPN scalability was a challenge. So one of the first things we did is, okay, audio video collaboration can move to a public cloud setup. It need not come through the standard VPN. Of course, we did ensure that when you move to collaboration on the public cloud, it's secure, safe, all those guardrails were taken care of. So that's one example. The other area shift we have seen from a technology perspective is the mindset we heard earlier, right? We've seen a big shift to mobile, the notebooks, etc. Nowadays, compute happens on notebooks. Even public sector banks, we've seen them adopting that, and we do expect that pace to accelerate. And I'll talk about something which we had in a, meaning one technology which we had earlier, and we've seen that the adoption on that piece really accelerating. You know, typically, when you're trying to troubleshoot endpoints, right? People are going to work from home, remote offices, remote locations, etc. You need that device to be always on, meaning people are just going to call you for, and traditional models were you dependent on an agent, troubleshoot devices, etc. We have a technology called Intel vPro, wherein even if the OS is not working, and imagine a situation, your OS is not working, you're sitting at home, you could have one of your system admins from the central data set DC or wherever workplace, through your private network, he dials into your system through the Wi-Fi of his residence, wakes up a machine, can see the screen booting up remotely. And this is pretty unique. The entire screen booting up remotely, bring it to a healthy state and hand it back to the user. So we've seen, meaning we call it vPro, but even during the pandemic, we had a lot of customers calling us and saying, guys, meaning we bought this technology, can you enable this? So these are the kind of tools and kind of shifts we have seen in organizations, people thinking differently to really enable the remote workforce.
Thanks, Manish. Prasanna, your views on the same?
I think there are many dimensions around digital workforce or working from home. I think just imagine a pandemic would have happened in 2000 or even 1980s. It would have survived. That's humankind is all about, right? So people mindset, people adjust with whatever the situation around, people innovate around whatever is available as a part of a technology or as a part of environmental conditions. But we are blessed with the pace of a technology since rise of internet, since 1995 so far now, right? With the smartphones around, a lot of tools around. So I think some of those dimensions around what type of people you have, or how do you create that kind of a culture within an organization, which is aligned with the digital workforce. Secondly, what all processes you want to pick it out onto the digital development or onboarding customers or operations, what all things based upon your organization appetite you want to build the automation around that. Third thing, what technologies or technology tools we are adopting. I think there are some technologies are already now normal technologies, so-called mobility, cloud, or any of those social media and so on. So which helps for a more collaboration per se. New things which are coming up, right? How you can utilize AI to understand how employees are behaving, or how do you take care of a data of a customer and to give some throwback, some kind of a cross sell for the customer. So involving customer also into part of your digital workforce is very, very important. And which are the technologies which will adopt. While we are doing these changes, I think security, compliance, is aligned with the compliance, aligned with the regulations is very, very important. And there are a lot of partners, right? So who are all those best partners while we are onboarding or getting into that digital or hybrid kind of a work model is very, very important. I think last but not least, your two set of customers, internal and external. Always keep us seek feedback, either automated way or manual way, having through some tools. We'll be able to know that whether are we on the right direction or are we moving from one orbit to another orbit every year and so on. So all these dimensions together will create an right equilibrium, whether are we aligned with the digital workforce or still we have to do some culture effect so that we can move ahead, right?
I think you brought about a very relevant point, Prasanna, that the whole transformation and the kind of work environment we are building is not just a multidisciplinary play, it's also an ecosystem play.
Yes.
Having the right partner ecosystem in place, to be able to work on a particular purpose and then move on to the next. Yeah. Thank you for that. Sanjay, your views on the the whole digital workspace scenario.
Yeah, I think first, of course, culturally as organizations, we have to be a lot more accepting, and we have to off that. Yes, employees will work remotely, will learn remotely, and we need to be comfortable with that, right? And then beyond the collaboration tools, technologies that we have already experimented with, scaled over the last couple of years, I think another technology or a capability that's going to really grow is virtual reality. I mean, Metaverse, I think, is a highly abused word nowadays, but I think virtual reality is really going to take collaboration and even learning to the next level. One of the things we are experimenting with now, right, over the last couple of years, I mean, we've all hired people and we've never met them, right? We've onboarded them into our organizations, but they've never been to an office or a manufacturing facility of ours. So we are, now innovating with, again, virtual reality, where any new employee that joins, we're shipping them an Oculus, and then they're getting real live tours of our facilities, manufacturing facilities, our offices, so they know what it feels like. They can hopefully better connect, better engage with our brands and our facilities, right? So that hopefully productivity and engagement goes up. So that's an area that I feel will take us strongly to the next level.
Thanks for that, Sanjay. I mean, I look forward to a scenario wherein even the manufacturing personnel are working out of their home, building the nice chocolates that we all love. Yeah. A lot of the whole multi-cloud environment, remote working brings and statutory requirements that are there and only going to get tighter as we move ahead with the data privacy laws coming in. There is a strong need for having a cloud-based zero trust security model, especially given the cloud native application building scenario that is there to stay. So my question to you over here, as not only the compute but also the security partner for a lot of us, Manish, is what are your recommendations in this area?
Yeah, meaning, this is a big topic by itself, and I guess over the past, I'll say 5-6 years, the paranoia has just shot off the roof to ensure systems are more secure, both on when you deploy on cloud. And I will say this, from our perspective, the way we see it, especially on your cloud journeys that organizations are embracing, the attack surface has increased. So earlier you were within the data center, your own private cloud. Now you're looking at multi-clouds, multiple cloud service providers. So from a business challenge perspective is, how do you make this surface a lot more secure? Of course, then there are other challenges, which of course is look at the security piece end to end. Typically we try to secure data when it's at rest. While it's in motion, that's the other thing. A lot of attacks nowadays are happening while the data is in motion, while the execution's happening. So how do you kind of look at an end-to-end security model? And the customers we engage with, one thing I do advocate is, you'll have very old infra, but if you look at recent infrastructure, modernize your infrastructure as far as possible. Because right from the CPU level, right, we are baking in a whole lot of stuff. It's not just about the cores, the cache, the features, etc., clock speeds. We are baking a huge amount of capabilities within the CPUs, which are utilized by the ecosystem, be it VMware, Red Hat, etc., Microsoft, to make the whole platform a lot more secure. These could be ransomware attacks, etc. So even on endpoints, here we are doing it. I'll give you a classic example what we're doing, especially on the public cloud. Since we're talking about public cloud here, we were one of the founding members for the Confidential Computing Consortium. Essentially nowadays, when you look at deploying on the public cloud, right, one of the first questions people have is the cloud secure? Of course, meaning AWS, Google, etc., play their part in ensuring that the whole infrastructure on public cloud is secure. But now you have, in fact, through this confidential computing, you can actually have secure VMs, and these are offerings which come there. And we've built capabilities, like I mentioned, SGX, etc. And the best part is the whole ecosystem. Google, Microsoft, Red Hat, ARM, all of these people are consortium members to this. If you're looking at, I mentioned on silicon, right? One of the biggest challenges we have on endpoint is when you are computing data, when it's at rest, it's encrypted, fail-safe, etc. We've seen a challenge when the data is in execution. Typically, you heard of ransomware, right? Data being taken from the memory piece. So we have technologies like total memory encryption, etc. And these are all part of the latest generation CPUs, I mean the last 1 or 2 generations. And we still see customers having 5-6 year generation of architectures. So we're saying that look at the modernize your infrastructure, which would, meaning you would benefit out of it. The whole ecosystem is kind of ready to help you on this cause. So those are some of the things I had in mind.
In fact, one of the advantages of cloud, of course, is that you can choose which generation of CPU you want to be on.
Absolutely.
And you can be as faithful as your options and your pockets allow at any point of time, right? The other thing that comes as a effective statutory warning is that security on cloud is a shared security model. There's responsibility both
sides
from the cloud provider and us as organizations, right? Now, Sanjay had brought in a very interesting topic with respect to the future-centric world of view, the whole metaverse, right? Thank you for highlighting that. My question to Kirti over here, right, is from a future-centric view of the world from where we stand today. What is the value proposition of cloud-centric virtual worlds? Having their own cryptocurrency, economy, digital assets, communities.
I think like Sanjay mentioned, it is just a matter of time. At this point of time, it may seem a little futuristic, but it may happen quite soon, right? We were, like I said 2 years ago, skeptical of even working from home. That has happened, but virtual worlds are here to stay. We've seen the success of NFTs, right? I mean, who would have imagined digital art is something that one would want to pay for, right? We always thought that that is one profession which will never be lost to the virtual world, right? Artists, real painting, you know, maybe is what we would aspire for. So I think things are changing and virtual worlds are going to be here to stay. You mentioned a couple of use cases and we are seeing a lot of things happening, onboarding of employees, training, definitely already there and could be used by all of us today. The other thing is on the medical side, right? And you mentioned whether somebody can actually manufacture a chocolate sitting at home, and that is absolutely possible. Medical care, okay, operations can be performed on, and I'm saying in the virtual world, but on real people, right? So there are two aspects to it, right? Virtual and virtual physical collaboration. And that is absolutely going to happen. And like I said, this generation would want to have a virtual avatar, right? We read about people who had their virtual avatar and got married in the virtual world. I mean, for us, it may sound bizarre, but that is going to be the reality tomorrow. So virtual real estate will be purchased, it will be insured, there would be virtual banks selling maybe digital currencies, insuring their properties there. That is going to happen tomorrow, too early today for a complete virtual world. For all you know, we will have a virtual avatar of Nikita Rana there and we would have this conference in the virtual world next time.
Thanks for that, Kirti. And Prasanna, your views on the same?
I think very interesting time. What we have seen largely in last 25 years, Web 1.0, Web 2.0, which is a reality today around social media or the way we operate internet, we can't live without that, right? The way we talk, communicate, transform or do transportation, everything is on internet today. But internet has some challenges, right? The way we have not emphasized the trust part, multi-party integrations, multi-party agreements, and whenever we share the data. So I think that is what will come into reality with the blockchain kind of ecosystem. Typically, it's a foundational technology. It will take its own time, but the time is quite very heavy pace. The way we have seen 20-25 years to bring food at home, blockchain will bring on in next 2-3 years many more realities to farm to fork, and every business model which is today on internet will transform with the help of blockchain. I think next, maybe today we talk a lot about use cases of internet like Google Pays, Phone Pays. Likewise, after 7-8 years, we'll talk only about use cases of Metaverse and so on. So I think time starts now. Whoever is do the risk appetite and research and adopt those, so those will have a large scale advantages out there. In India, its adoption is very less compared to what's happening in smaller countries like Malta, Gibraltar, or Japan, or Singapore, or Canada. In Asia itself, adoption is 9% compared to what others are doing, right? Around digital virtual assets, typically we call for cryptocurrencies. Followed by NFT, we have seen marketplace last year was around 10 billion, it's going beyond 40 billion this year. DeFi, which is another ecosystem riding on, it is hitting 140 billion since last 2 years, right? So huge different set of use cases are coming. The way we have seen social media was not there, and social media came and we had a lot of use cases. Similarly, through Web3, we'll have a different way of communication. So how it happens for humanity, start with your letters and postcards, that's what is the communication here, right? Followed by telephones and mobile phones and WhatsApp and so on. So tomorrow's communications will be just like a gesture base or a touch base or voice. So the communication plays quite heavy role in the human transformation while we adopt digital. In a Web3, Metaverse will create a lot of reality. Although it is a virtual reality, starts with virtual reality followed by augmented. Real Metaverse is a combination of augmented, virtual, and a brain-computer interface. It will take its own time, but we'll have to keep on doing research, keep on doing a lot of use cases for end users. That is how internet has been evolved, and we see a lot of use cases today, right? Similarly, I think in Web3, Metaverse is gonna be a right use cases. We will forget once upon a time we used to be on social media or on emails. Voice will be more powerful identity, or when we get into Metaverse. I think for organizations who are not adopting blockchains or Web3, it's the right time to create some focus group who will really take care of a whole thing. And it's a multi-network effect. It is not you have to work upon that, but a like-minded use case. Say, ma'am spoke about cross-functional teams within an organization, but at a larger level, you will have to have a cross-functional organizations around one use case. Say, example, insurance, where an insurance company, bank, identity will come under one use case. Likewise, multiple use cases will come onto the marketplaces. What we have done at our offices as a branch network followed by internet mobility, it will evolve further more and more. That's how multi-cloud, multi-protocol, digital identity, I think that will be the game changer. It has to work cohesively around many technologies, then only virtual will become actual real.
Absolutely.
There, yeah.
Thank you for that, Prasanna. In fact, you know, the thing about technology is that technology has always been there, and it requires black swan events. Like, for example, the COVID is a black swan event. For that technology really to come to limelight. Just for example, you know, virtual desktop interface has been there for dogs' years, and typically has been the playground for our system admins. But now all of us are adopting that in a big way. Right? That being said, you know, Metaverse also, right, while it might be early stages, it will require a black swan event, and I look forward to the day when our digital twins, right, we have digital twins who are actually in office doing work while we are giving GAN out here. Yeah. With that, I hand back the dais to Nikita, the physical version of Nikita. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.